how you actually realize that, hey, facts tell, stories sell.
Couple of ways. I've worked with a lot of founders, and especially in like the software side of things, right? They build this incredible product, they raise all this money, and they just tell me about all the widgets. And it's kind of like, I don't really care. Like, there's got to be a better way for this. And then like learning from people who are teaching me to sell the widgets, it's like, this isn't compelling. This is all about us. Something felt off about it. And then you start to see when you meet a good person who really has the need and they're willing to cut their teeth, like, hey, like, thanks for sharing this, but I would have loved to have heard about it this way. I've really had one or two prospects who were like, hey, I would have preferred if you'd mentioned this in this way. And I was like, huh. Then that started to click over in my head.
And now the man you've been waiting for, John, the sales machine, Rankins.
Ladies and gentlemen, sales isn't taught in schools. Most people never learn how to be confident, how to be out in the world, and how to make a way for themselves. But that's what today's guest is here for. He has consulted, advised, and led workshops for more than 750 companies from 30 countries, including Google, Nike, and HEC Paris Business School and HEC Paris Business School. He's helped clients generate millions of dollars in revenue by making sales compelling, interesting, and even fun. A true master in story selling, author of Superpower Storytelling, and the president of Steers Consulting Group. Please welcome Steven Steers.
Hey, John, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I love your work.
Hey, thank you, man. I love it too. You know, I get paid to do this. Yeah, absolutely. I pay myself to do it. But ultimately, the Sales Machine podcast, I created it literally to empower ordinary companies to become extraordinary. And by bringing on guests like you, Steven, to actually empower them with framework, strategies, and systems and structures so that, you know, they can become extraordinary.
That's what gets me up in the morning as well, man. Absolutely.
That's phenomenal. You know, I've been in direct sales for 30 years, face-to-face, kiosk sales, boardroom sales, software sales, skincare, car care, and literally helped tens of thousands of people go from ordinary to extraordinary, run their own business with our structures, our systems, our strategies, and our products and services. Tell me about your journey and, you know, what's the first thing you ever sold and how'd you get into sales?
The first thing I ever sold would be ice pops. So if you've ever been to like Walmart and you have that 100 pack of those freezer pops, I would buy a pack of those for like $4 and then I would sell them for $0.25 at my high school. And then so, you know, making $12 to $13 on a pack. So that's pretty good margin. So that's kind of how I kept myself in ring dings and Snickers bars back in those days. That's the first stuff I've ever really sold. How I got into sales, I've always kind of had a knack with people. I always sell stuff on Craigslist. That's how I was paying my student loans for a really long time because I graduated in the last recession. So I just, you know, would find stuff on Craigslist, fix it up, repaint it, resell it somewhere, go to a garage sale, flip stuff. You know, I was a big flipper. But I was working in the construction business out of college. It was the first job I got. And I was working at the Baccarat Hotel and Suites on 53rd and 6th for our New York listeners that know it. And this was a brand new building. I worked on it from when it was a hole in the ground to when it was completed. And I was doing a routine inspection and the building was basically turned over, right? There's $30 million, $75 million apartments. And I walked all the way down from the roof to the main construction entrance, which had like a triple height floor. And I'm with my foreman and he and I are having some laughs. He's showing me pictures on his phone or something. And he taps my shoulder and says, hey, let's go to lunch. And I took one step forward and a cement block falls directly where I was standing. Literally missed it by that much. It would have fallen right on my head. I lost my appetite and went for a walk. And I started thinking, I was like, hey, I'm going to die one day. I might as well die doing something I want to do. And I'd always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I was like, well, I should do something with a company. I didn't know what I could do. I was like, you're good with people. Maybe sales is the ticket. So I just went super hard over the next 3 months, got myself a job as an SDR, bottom of the barrel, with the theory of if you can sell, you'll always have a business. And so I was like, while I figure out what to build or whatever, I might as well learn how to sell things. And then that's kind of where it started. And I've been here since.
Wow. And you got a job as an SDR.
Mm-hmm.
For what company and what were you selling? What product, service?
It's a company called Contently. They were based in New York City. It was content marketing software.
Okay.
Which I know you're like, what the heck is content marketing software? Kind of,
No,
I
I
agree.
get, I understand. Like I have a whole marketing team, dude, and they educate me about all of the different tools that we actually use. And because I'm like, what's this for? What's that for? What's this for? I mean, and it goes deeper than that, but I love it. Content marketing. How long were you you were in the SDR role for 3 months? Tell me about the journey after that.
No, I was actually in the SDR role for almost a year. The journey after that, I got promoted to an associate role where I was kind of handling the mid-market in the DC area. And then it was a wild ride. Like, again, like most startups, they don't train folks. They just kind of expect you to know what to do. And so I fell victim to that to some degree, and then started doing research, finding podcasts, listening to people, and learning different techniques, and then saw some success, and then left out of there after about a total of 2 years. And then I got into the consulting side of things, where I've fallen in love because it just suits me and my style a lot better. Where I've been for the past 6-7 years. Yeah.
I love it. I feel like a consultant, but I run my own company, and ultimately I just do a lot of sales training. I even went in the field last week. I had a new guy that said, I can't get past the gatekeeper. And I'm like, well, you want me to show you how to do that? And he goes, sure. I said, jump in the car. Literally went to the mall, and I pitched 100 tenants in the mall direct. And I said, that's how you get to the gatekeeper. You get
Wow.
right. Just go do it. Right. Stop sitting on your desk making phone calls. And if it's not working, you've done that for a month. Let me show you how to do it. Knock, knock.
What got you into sales? Have you always been selling?
It's funny, Steven, because you just told me your story earlier. You used to buy and sell stuff on Craigslist, fix it, and then resell it.
Yep.
Well, my grandfather, when I was 5 years old, I didn't have a father. So my grandfather took me in. He used to wake me up at 5:30 every morning. And I was the only one. I have 3 siblings and my mother. And he would knock on the door. It was a 2-bedroom house. And he just put his head in there and he goes, John T., it's time. And I knew what that meant. I had an older brother, younger brother, older sister. I get to work with grandpa. And we would go out. We would go to swap meets. And he would bring a trailer, and he would buy all the broken bicycles, broken dressers, trailers, and literally he could do anything, weld. And he'd have garage sales in his front yard. And literally we lived in a Hispanic community where they would just come and buy up everything. So that's actually how I first started selling, because, you could go out there and talk to those people. And I never realized that, because the first thing I ever really knew I sold, now that I, put the pieces together, is I would go door to door knocking, to mow people's lawns, pull their weeds, paint their curb number, anything that I could do to make money to buy school clothes. Otherwise, I had to wear my brother's hand-me-downs. He was 3 years older than me, and I didn't get school clothes. It was, you get what Lauren's done with. And that journey, then I became a newspaper boy, and then I sold carnations for the school prom, and I just outsold everybody, but I didn't see it as really like selling. I just saw it as I was doing a service and helping people.
Yes.
That's where I cut my teeth in sales. And my older brother, we would go door to door with our lawnmower. We just pull the lawnmower along the way, so we get it done right then and there if you needed our service. But my older brother didn't want nothing to do with going to the door and doing it. So he just pushed me forward and go knock on that door. Go get us a sale. He didn't say sale, but go get us this lawn. Yeah, absolutely love it. And I love the story aspect of it. And I love that you asked me about that, because that's exactly what you're known for. Stories close the sale, never the conversation. And you preach about that. You're a minister. You're a minister of story, man. Come on. Tell me about how you actually realized that, hey, facts tell, stories sell. Come on.
Couple of ways. So, I mean, I've worked with a lot of founders, and especially in like the software side of things, right? They build this incredible product, they raise all this money, and they just tell me about all the widgets. And it's kind of like, I don't really care. Like, there's got to be a better way for this. And then like learning from people who were teaching me to sell the widgets, it's like, this isn't compelling. This is all about us. Something felt off about it. And then you start to see when you meet a good person who really has the need and they're willing to cut their teeth, like, hey, like, thanks for sharing this, but I would have loved to have heard about it this way. I've really had one or two prospects who were like, hey, I would have preferred if you'd mentioned this in this way. And I was like, huh. And it started to click over in my head. And then I've always had a love for storytelling. And then it just dawned on me one day where I was in a demo with a guy, and he was talking about, like, he didn't understand something in this demo. So I gave him a concept. I'll share the concept. So the basic way I understood it was, if you've never been to Central Park and we're talking about Central Park, I could describe Central Park to you, right? But if I described it and asked you in questions instead, and I was like, hey, what's the biggest park in your hometown? And you'd say, it's XYZ Park. Okay, how big is that park? It's this big. What would you do there? Did you go there a lot as a kid? Yeah, I saw my first concert there. I had my first kiss there. We would have picnics. There's a nice basketball court. I broke my ankle. Whatever that situation is, I've got you into this place where you're remembering your own context. And then I take your context and then put it on top of the new situation in Central Park. So in comparison to your hometown, Central Park is probably about 7 times as large. It has 4 times as many exits. It's really well known for this. This movie was filmed there. And now I've got you embracing a newer concept that you didn't have any familiarity towards with your own story about yourself. So there's a quote that I love. It's by one of these old Roman philosophers. His name is Horace, that says, you need change only the name and the stories about you. So when I talk with teams and talk in a sales context, if I can tell you about great results my clients got, and I can name them, their state they were in when they came to me, the state that we got them to, and where they're headed, you could probably see yourself in those results as well, versus me being like, oh, my company's good and we got great widgets. Which one responds more? And so through many presentations, trial and error, falling on my face, and just seeing people's eyes light up when you can give them a concept they can take home, then it just kind of started to snowball, and I started doing more research on it. And it's really quite the difference maker when people can talk to you like a person instead of just trying to sell you something, right? We're solving problems, and stories are a great way to get people back into that mind frame of, yeah, I'm willing to listen and take this back with me.
Right on. So tell me a story about the most memorable client you've ever helped and how that you went from struggle to success using your framework.
My most memorable, using the framework, this is me using my own framework in the nascent stages, but it's one of my favorite stories. It was my first 6-figure deal, global deal with Gartner. And this was a struggle we had with the product. This is at the same company, Contently, where I was on the phone with these folks. This sales cycle was about 524 days from start to finish. I qualified them as an SDR, and they were still in the funnel when I was promoted. So I've been working that deal from like literally first touch all the way to close, right? So nurtured the heck out of them, had some conversations, and then finally, after maybe a year and 2 or 3 months of nurturing, they got back to me. We're like, hey, like let's have a conversation now. So get into good conversations. It seems like it's a real opportunity. It's for 4 business lines in Gartner. And then they're like, hey, can you just let us play with the platform for a month, and then we'll figure out how we use it. So I went to my VP and I was like, hey, this is what they need. And he's like, yeah, we can't do that. And I was like, there must be a better way. And I was like, what if I said I was going to come down there and spend the day with them, and they could bring everybody they want, and I could just demo the platform in person? He's like, that we can do. So I broached the concept with my prospect, and they're like, yeah, come on down. Schedule time. I go down to DC. They book a conference room. We get about 35 people in the room, and they're just throwing questions at me the whole time. I'm answering everything I can. And I'd loaded the dice before the situation. I said, hey, for any questions I can't answer, I have Dimitri from my team standing by if something gets really, really technical. He'll be available at this time period right after the scheduled meeting. And I'm a Scrum Master too, and I would love to go and spend time with the tech team, because if I'm selling software, I might as well know how you build it, why you build it, how you think about this, because then I'm solving problems and I can really speak to those situations inside of the company. And so Dimitri was waiting on the line. The demo ended well. There were only 2 questions I couldn't answer. Dimitri picked up on the second ring. We had a great conversation. And then it was just me and the main contact at Gartner. And I knew it was a competitive situation because they told me that. And he's like, hey, this was really solid. And I was like, hey, just quickly, I know you're looking at prospect X, prospect Y, and prospect Z. Is that correct still? And he's like, yep, absolutely we are. I said, well, whoever you choose, they're going to give you a great product that's going to serve your needs really, really well. And he nods. He's like, cool. And I was like, but if something goes wrong, I'm going to come down here and Dimitri's waiting on the line if something happens. And I just saw his eyes flicker and I was like, that's my deal. And so I closed that deal a month later, and it was the largest deal I closed at that time, 6 figures, 4 division lines at Gartner. And it was being able to weave that right story together to give people that context that they needed, which I thought was really fun.
That's amazing. And you got tons of testimonials from your work. Tell me about a startup that you've helped.
Yeah, I've worked with a lot of different startups. So there's one called Monitor that I worked with my mentor, and we'd help them double their business by going through everything in their funnel. So one of my favorite places to play in the funnel is the sales call, discovery call. This is the biggest indicator of health in a business, in my opinion, because how you show up for the client when you're talking to them is a really key indicator of how well you understand what you're selling and how you can guide them in to make the best decision. So we rewrote their entire sales script. We helped them add a couple of different stories from the results they have. And in about a year, they were able to double their business, which is huge, super cool.
Yeah, doubling business is cool. I love doing it. I love doing it with my own business too. Like, that's a huge win. Been there, done that, and been on the other side of it as well, because I've moved through the space of building and scaling sales teams with different products and services. As an example, we used to sell novelty items, children's books, and we would place the books in businesses. And then we went from there to doing advertising and promotions and literally creating an advertising and promotions campaign for small and medium-sized businesses. And then I went from that to doing skincare, like Proactive Solution.
Yeah, no, remember Proactive? Oh, I had the acne bad back in the days, man.
Yeah, me too. And we were a distributor for them in Southeast Asia, and it was just mind-blowing how they cracked the code with the TV media and using celebrities to sell. And I went on from there to do, software sales. Instead of just doing the advertising and promotions campaign, we built an app called FunCrowd. I love the journey. What is the most challenging company you've ever worked with? In what industry implemented your framework of story selling within it? What was the most challenging one, and what was the result having worked with them?
I'd say startups are the most challenging by far. Like, there's no, I've worked in professional services. I spend a lot of time in professional services now, but I'd say venture-backed startups are the hardest for a couple of reasons. One, a lot of the mentality there is like, oh, we've already raised a bunch of money. We know everything there is to know. And so you're kind of combating how to educate them on what they don't know in a way that they'll accept, which is its own very nuanced thing that's very specific to that industry. Haven't seen that in professional services. But I'd say once you get past that and you figure out, so coming back up a hair is, once you figure out the story that a person's telling themselves, you know what better story you can tell to help them see some parity in what you have. So, like, again, it comes back to, this as well as I do, probably even better, it comes down to listening. So if you don't ask the right questions, you're never going to get good answers that give you something that you can attach back to and then create that context for. So as an example, once I started talking to the CEO and understanding what his actual motivations were, why this was the project he wanted to work on and where he really wanted to take the company, what was in his way, now I could then say, hey, so remember when we talked about this? Yeah, I remember. That's really important to me. Here's what we're doing, and here's why this is going to be really important to help you get to this thing that you really, really want. That's the only reason I'm pressing you this hard on it. And once you can see that it's in reference to the results that they want for themselves and the pain points they have, the friction starts to melt away. And then we were able to help them build out their sales process, their V1, get their first 10 clients, and then start to hire for sales, which is a huge, huge boon to someone's confidence who doesn't want to do sales. When you have a system that works, that you can send somebody else to work because you know it gets the results that you want.
I love it. Yeah, I'm all about process and systems, right? Just as long as they follow the process and just keep asking questions, people are going to give you the gold. right? They're going to give you the gold as long as you can just shut up and listen, just quiet yourself and really listen to what people have to say. And they'll let you know what they need. And a lot of times in sales, they don't even know what they need. They know the symptom, right? So they say, well, the reason why I brought you in, Steven, is because my guys can't sell. But a lot of the times, it's not the guys. It's the process. It's the system, or they've got them so scripted that people feel like they're handcuffed. I'm all about having a process and a system, but a lot of the times, you got to ditch the script, shut up and listen. And people will really tell you what their problems are, but you got to diagnose what is the real problem. Is it the salespeople? Is it the product? Is it the service? Is it how you're delivering it? Is it your approach? What is it the process? Like, once you can break that down, for me, and I've worked with a lot of other companies, even outside my own, I just love the fact that selling is really figuring out, how to be of service, solve problems, and most importantly, make sure people are satisfied. And, when I hear people say, well, I'm not a salesman, and I'm like, well, you keep telling yourself that. Do you like helping people? Do you care about people? Because that's what selling's all about. It's about doing something for someone, not to them, right? In your experience working with different companies and different salespeople, what separates the great ones from the average ones?
Ooh, I have a couple things. The first thing I would say is you got to want it. You can't teach that. The person either has like, hey, I'm willing to do what's extra or not. And they're going to you just know it. When you talk to a person who's got that fire in them, they're going to move hell or high water to get what they want. And I think that's one of the first things. The second thing is ruthless qualification. So like, I'm a big stickler for call scripts insofar as you have to have certain beats you have to hit. And again, I think most people qualify people in because they want to have like more conversations. But part of helping people is saying, hey, you know what? Based on what you've outlined today, I don't think we're the right people to help you with what you have. That might sound counterintuitive, but that builds some of the biggest trust you could build in the marketplace because you weren't trying to rope somebody in just to get a number on the board. And I found that to be really, really important. So that's huge. Then I would say the capacity to continuously improve. So the best people I've ever worked with, they study on their own time. They read books, they go to masterminds, they take courses, and they invest in the skill set and the person they want to be in the future. So I'd say those are the three biggest things I've seen in really successful salespeople, and I do myself as well.
I've had some really, really cool cats on the show, like Keenan, that wrote Gap Selling, really good guy. Jeffrey Gittimer, Mark Roberge, he resonates exactly with what you're saying from HubSpot about actually qualifying people, following the process in the system, and you cannot teach hunger, right? You're either hungry or not. If I had a defining factor, right? If you ask people about me, they're just like, John just doesn't stop. He won't stop. I've been doing this podcast for 3 months, right? You're number 49.
Wow. Hell yeah.
Yeah. So number 50, I'm just going to do the greatest hits of the sales machine, the best clips. So, cause I really want, it's not about me. I really want people to be able to listen to the sales machine and take the frameworks or a system. So obviously you cannot work with everybody and you're in New York. So we have listeners all over the world. So if you were going to give them a framework today, like what are the 5 moves their next 5 moves that they need to make, like just as an evaluation to look at where they're at with their own company, what would be the first 5 things you did to diagnose? Because a lot of people are in sales malpractice. right? A lot of people are in sales malpractice. They shouldn't even be doing diagnosis if they've never done it themselves, right? And you have. So what would be the advice of the next 5 moves you would give people to actually give themselves an evaluation to see whether or not they need to reach out to you?
Thank you for the question. The first thing I would say is look at your results. Are you where you want to go? Let's start there. If you are not where you want to go, or not yet where you want to go, we need to look at the choices that you made to get there. So do you have the right ICP? Do you have the right messaging that you're putting out to that ICP? Are you doing enough touches to get in front of this group? And then we got to go back to what it is you believe about your business. So this is understanding who you're really selling to, and is this the right thing for you? So I would say we'd start with that. If your results don't match up, my general thing is if you're not recording your sales calls, start recording your sales calls right now and look at what your reps are saying. This isn't to be a nanny to them. It's if they're working for you, they want to make money too. And there may be some room or some pieces inside of there that can really give you a picture of what needs to be happening or what doesn't. The fifth thing I would say is create regular time to train your people. Really create some time to train your people. Like regardless of where you are, especially if your results aren't there, your reps need training. The best companies consistently train their reps. They consistently add, and I think they achieve 42% higher quota attainment. I believe that's the stat I read, when they have regular training. So those would be the 5 things I would look at, but start with your results. If it's not what you want, you got to work backwards, and we'll find the gaps inside of there, and they're probably in one of your phone calls.
Yeah, game tape. I love calling it game tape. I'm a big fan of the NFL, especially the Pittsburgh Steelers. Come on.
Steelers, Steel Town, okay.
The standard is the standard. Come on.
Who's your favorite? Heinz Ward, Jerome Bettis?
You know, if I look at everybody, obviously Mean Joe Green made the biggest difference.
Take me back. Okay.
Yeah, well, he changed the Steelers lost for 40 years until they drafted Mean Joe, and then he wasn't having it. The locker room became his after the first year, and if you watch him play, he wasn't a very nice guy.
He's called mean for a reason.
Yeah, Mean Joe. It wasn't. Terry Bradshaw was really good. He was a winner, but if who stands out to me more than anybody, right, is Mean Joe. He laid the foundation for that organization.
The culture.
That's what it. Yeah, he set the culture, and he wasn't having any of it. If people were disruptive or toxic in the locker room, you're going to deal with Joe, not the head coach. Mean Joe.
So question for you, right? Since we're talking culture and you got 30 years of doing this, what would you say is one of the key things to building a proper sales culture?
Well, I even have it on the wall, just like the Pittsburgh Steelers. The standard is the standard, right? First and foremost. So ultimately, the best people, like you said, are accountable, right? And I expect leadership from everybody. So we have core values, and a lot of people discount the soft skills as far as the company vision, mission, core values. But ultimately, those are our guiding principles, right? That's our guide. So literally our core values are, I love it. Number 1, integrity. And integrity means accountability to what you signed up for, right? Not just lying, cheating, stealing. It's accountability that you fulfill what you signed up for. So integrity, leadership, opportunity, value, excellence, innovation, and teamwork. I love it. I love it. And I expect you to love it too. So when you jump on board, this is who we are. And I'll show you what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. But ultimately, you need to subscribe to it. And that's the standard is the standard. So I don't need to be telling you what to do. You need to be telling me what you need for support, because we're going to put you into the system. Now, this isn't the prison system. There's there's a lot of flexibility. There's a lot of freedom because I believe if I didn't believe in you, you're not even hired into our company. So there is a belief system, and I love to screen all of the top people in my company before they come on board because I want to know what they're all about. I want to know their story. So what I've found out in my 30 years is in order to be great at sales, the first person you have to sell is yourself.
Amen.
On you helping others, you being valuable, your product, your service. And if your product is not world class, opt out because if the company's putting shit out there, then there's no way you're going to be world class if you don't sell a world class product. I interviewed Steve Wozniak. He's the most lovable guy I've ever interviewed. A lot of people don't know it, but he left Apple when things were getting, oury, when things weren't going well. And he left Apple because he didn't see eye to eye. And he actually he changed his name and became a grade school teacher and did that for several years. But he went, and he's just a lovely man. Literally, when I interviewed him, I said, how, you've been a part of $1 trillion company. What made it $1 trillion company? And he said, well, first and foremost, you got to have a great product. So for salespeople out there, companies out there, you can't throw shit on the wall. It will catch up to you. So you got to have a great product. And then you've really got to have great sales and marketing teams. He goes, that's when those three things align, that's when you'll have a really successful company because sales solves all problems. Because even if you screw up, you got revenue and you can fix those problems. And for me, I have a software company. If I have a client that's unhappy, I don't care who made the sale. I will jump on that call or I'll go to their office and say, hey, look, apparently we screwed up. I'm here to fix it because I'm going to make you happy no matter what. And I'm going to make sure that you get what you need. That's all about the product. And that's the standard for our organization. Take responsibility and accountability. And for me, that's part of integrity. You signed up, show up. Anyway, I've went on for quite a while, Stephen.
The passion. Shares the passion.
Yeah, well, I love people. I believe in people, but there's an equation to success. It's you and I. It's us and you. We're in it to win it together. So you need to do your part. And if you're struggling, if you're challenged, tell me what support you need, and we'll get it done. You need to I'll hit the field with you. I just hit the field last week with I went with 4 different agents, and I'm like, let's go, let's rock and roll. This is not difficult. This is my playground. Let's go. I've done door to door or face to face sales. It seems like my whole life. People are just people, and they all one common denominator with people and companies. They all have problems.
Yes, I agree.
All of them.
Everybody
find out the real problem, not just the symptom, and help. Who doesn't want help, dude?
We want help from the right people.
That's right. But who doesn't want help?
I don't think there's a person who doesn't want help. They probably just don't know how to ask.
Yeah, that's right. And so I show up to ask you how I can help you.
Yeah.
Like what's working around here? I noticed you're, I'm not walking in and say, hey man, that's a nice plant. I like your Swarovski crystals on your ceiling. I walk in and say, hey, why is the place empty? Where's all your customers? It's lunchtime and you're a restaurant. I noticed TGI Fridays is full. Italiani's is full. Are you guys struggling? Do you have a loyalty program here and rewards system for your customers, like those, like TGI's, Italianics, because they're full? No, we don't have. Oh, really? What about even just like a loyalty card, like a stamp card? No, we don't. We don't have any. Wow. Do you have a referral program? No. Oh, wow. If I could show you how we help little restaurants literally triple the amount of customers that they have, like I did for XYZ as an example. Right. Would you be interested in me showing you that? We fill up all these seats in here. Is your owner around or the man in charge? Like, do you want more customers? Yeah, we need more customers. Doesn't matter who you're talking to, right? Keywords, would you be open?
Yes. Or would you be opposed?
Or opposed?
Yeah.
To me showing you. And then the ultimate thing is once you go through the value proposition and you handle all the objections during the value proposition.
Yes, absolutely.
In the absence of value, everything comes down to what?
Price.
Yeah, and that means you didn't follow the process.
Yes.
Because you want to know the coolest thing about our system is it pays for itself. Can I show you? Can I show you how we do that? So that's sales to me.
Yeah, I couldn't disagree with you, man. I'd say too, it's, you know, the right questions to ask in a way that's not going to get someone to put their back up, right? That's the nuance of it too, right? That's where your experience plays out so well. You know how to ask the right question in a way that's not threatening, not judgmental, just from an actual place of, hey, I care about this. Can I help you with this? And that's the magic.
Yeah, if you're walking down the street and you see somebody drop their wallet or drop their purse, I'm going to help. That's a big problem. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Later on, they have to renew their license, cancel their credit cards. Like for me, how I see sales, I'm just helping you out. I'm here to help. And you don't want my help? It's cool. Like my grandpa, we would be working in the shop, building a bike, dude, and he'd have it on the vise, right? We'd already ripped the guts out of the bike and we getting ready to, put the wheels back on or the bearings back in, because we'd repack all the bearings and stuff like that. If I handed him the wrong wrench, he was a grumpy old fella, dude. And, he used to work on tanks and shit in the war. So he was also, the best man I ever met in my life. He had the most integrity of anybody.
God bless him, man. What was his name?
His name was David Sterling. I named my son after him. I gave my son his own name too, though. I named my son Sky David Sterling. Yeah, stud. So if I wanted to incorporate your system, what would be the steps I needed to take to work with you, Stephen?
The first thing you would do is send me one of your sales calls. I would review your sales call through a 30-point rubric that I've developed and grade it. And we'll show you the exact timestamps of, hey, it looks like you missed this. So really quick about the method, I call it context selling. We use all these AI tools which tell us who talked more, who had a monologue, great for summaries, but they can't tell you what you missed. They can't tell you didn't ask this question, or you should have had this, or you should not have asked this, or where you fell off. And so my method helps add the context that AI can't give you. So you send me a phone call, I'll review it with timestamps for where there's room for improvement. We'll grade those series in pieces. And then I usually coach reps or founders specifically on those phone calls, and they can send me those on a regular basis where I review. We have one-on-ones, we go over the stuff. Then from there, we can create very specific trainings for that company to train them on the pieces and parts they're missing inside their sales calls. And we've, in some cases, increased close rates by as much as 25% by just implementing that type of sales call coaching, which is pretty cool.
I love the method. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to that method. Like, he didn't do anything just now to sell you. He literally came from a place of service. And when in service, never nervous. And
I love that.
If you see when you're speaking to someone and they get nervous about sending you a proposal or contacting me, that should be the first, that's a yellow flag. That's a yellow flag. And if they're only talking about themselves and their company and who they are, that's a red flag. Stephen came from a different place and space and said, look, if you want to work with me, the first thing I want to do is send me one of your sales calls. Let me break it down. Let me come from service. Let me figure out how I can help you.
Or if
it will work for you. So I absolutely love that. And you didn't. And so right off the bat, I got total respect, Stephen, because I'm all about giving first. Give and you shall receive.
Yes,
And that's your approach, which is brilliant. And that's what makes you brilliant. And you spoke to AI. Tell me about what you think of AI in the sales sphere and where it's going.
It's a big matzo ball here, John. Big matzo ball. I think for the people who are, so like the top performers we're talking about, right? The top performers that are listening to a podcast like this, or those that are of mind to want to be top performers, they're going to leverage the right tools of AI to increase what they already do well. The low performers are going to look for it to replace the things that they're doing. So quick example, one thing, like we live in a content heavy world. I can tell that you just threw something from ChatGPT on your LinkedIn. I can tell you you don't have any perspective. You haven't done any research yourself. You just threw a prompt and you're just making content for content's sake. That's corny and not valuable. And I don't like it. And for folks that actually have a perspective and a point of view, if you could put that point of view out there, using AI to maybe help you get some ideas and then creating it yourself, I think you're putting yourself in the right position to be a higher value person in the space. That's one side. Second side, I think, like, again, a good tool in the hands of a well-prepared person, you can become a master. I think for the right people, it's going to work very well, but I think it's going to really muddy the profession in some ways. Like you have these bots that are doing the cold calling for people. So that's weird to me. I don't really like that tool. I think that kind of ruins like if I got a robot call from a company and then got on a phone with somebody and I found out they called me with a robot, I wouldn't trust them. So I think like one of my mantras is we're humans solving human problems in a business context. And so everything that I do is to be more human. And so as long as you're using AI in the service of being more human to your prospects, I think it's the best thing that could happen to sales. But for those that aren't, it's going to be very clear, the delineation for those that just use the tool because they have a tool instead of using the tool to be in more service.
I love it. Yeah. For me, it's all about leverage. Okay. And we'll go back to my grandpa's workshop when we would work on bicycles and we would be taking out the guts or, the pedals and we couldn't get them off, right? No matter what wrench we were using. And my grandpa said, grab that pipe. And I was like, what am I going to do with that pipe? Is he going to start banging on this thing? I was wondering, what is he going to do with this pipe, right? But my grandfather was not a violent man. He was just, he was sometimes grumpy. But he grabbed that pipe, he slid it over the wrench, and it extended the wrench that gives you massive leverage. And then, boom, the bolt come right out,
yep.
Right? Or, it just worked. So, yeah, I agree. Tools are for leverage. And that's what AI is. I think AI is unbelievable at being a co-pilot or giving us leverage to add more value in less time.
For the right people.
My take is sales, no matter what. I had Jeffrey Gitomer, the Little Red Book of Sales Bible on here, and he literally came up and coined the phrase in the Little Red Book of Sales: when people know you, like you, and trust you, they'll buy from you. And a lot of people have regurgitated that with irresistible offers online or in the digital marketing space. But Jeffrey Gitomer, guy who goes direct and really works for referral, coined that phrase. And I know it to be true. I know it to be factual. When people know you, like you, and trust you, they will buy from you. And I can't even count the number of sales I've done individually or collectively, well over 100 million. And people, for the most part, don't know AI. They don't know how it works. And if they don't know that, they don't trust it. And they don't yet. The top 1% to 5% in the world that really understand and use it, like it, so they won't trust it. So until they do, they're not going to buy in, right? But for me, it's a co-pilot. It's a tool. I use it as leverage to take the pedals off the bike. That's a little story. That's a little story, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. You should use it again.
Steven, you're a great coach, man. I like it.
That's what I'm here for, man. Thank you for having me.
I'm just going into your world, right? Just like you said, that's the methodology you use, Central Park, right?
That's it.
You talked about building stuff off Craigslist and reselling it. And those are all true stories. Those are from my life and my grandpa. You know, we would go to the swap meet, and I was a young boy, man. I was like my son's age, 6. He's 6. He just turned 6. He got his blue belt in Taekwondo.
Congratulations.
We would walk the swap meets, and he'd just buy lots of this junk, right? I'm like, I wanted to look at the toys, right? I wanted to look at the different stuff at the swap meet. He's buying all this junk that we're going to go home and, refurbish and sell. But I would look back because he'd like, keep going, right? Stop looking at all this shit. Because he didn't care anything about the toys or whatever, right? He taught me one of the greatest lessons in my life. And it became a metaphor. Look where you're going, not where you've been. And when I grew up, I'm like, that's so powerful. Look where you're going, not where you've been. And I think companies understanding your methodology and using that methodology so that they can look where they're going, not where they've been. It's a great place to start sending you their sales calls. I absolutely love it.
I think so too, man. It's been fun to see it work.
I love it, man. Yeah. And what final advice would you give companies right now to build and scale their businesses?
Go out there and add more value. That's really, really what I would say, as far as because we're in a strange market where people are looking to trust businesses in a different way. And I think if you really want to grow your business, do a diagnostic of what you have, get clear on where you want to go, and then ask for the right type of help. Because no matter where you are in your business, there's somebody externally who can see the things you can't see and can give you that really good perspective to help you get to the next level. So I would say ask for help. That's the best way for a business to grow.
All right. And where can people find you?
You can find me on stevensteers.com, and I have a series of, you get a free copy of the first chapter of my book, which is called Superpower Storytelling. If you just go to stevensteers.com/superpowerbook, you can get that, and we can get in touch that way. Or find me on LinkedIn.
Or find him on LinkedIn. Ladies and gentlemen, Steven Steers. That's STEERS. Find him on LinkedIn. Thanks, Steven.
Thanks for having me, John.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to send a review about what you liked on this podcast or share it with somebody who would need it to definitely improve their business, building and scaling sales teams, do me a favor, like, share. It means a lot to me so that we can help others grow and live in abundance. That's a wrap, folks. Thanks for joining me today. And if you got value from this episode, do me a favor, like, subscribe, and refer a friend. And if you want even more value, go to thesalesmachine.com, click on resources, and there's tons of resources there to increase profits and drive performance in your business. Right on, come on.